I'm Lisa, the artist behind Lachri Fine Art. It is Tuesday, so I'm here to critique one of your original paintings or drawings. If you have an original painting or drawing that you would like to submit for critique, head over to my website, lachri.com/critiques. That link is below in the video description, and you can submit your work there. Today's submission comes from artist Corey Charles. He has painted this very small 6x6 inch painting using acrylic paints. He is very new to painting. Typically he works in graphite. Wow, this is good for being new to painting. You did a really good job blending the skin tones. I love the design here. I like the splatters of paint, the red circles. I think this is a really strong piece. It really makes for a very interesting portrait. As usual, I started by importing your photo into Photoshop. I laid your reference photo on top of that, lined them up, outlined the reference photo with a pink pen in this case so it would show up, and then dropped your reference photo out. Now we can see how close your line drawing is. You're super close until we get down towards the bottom of the nose. It feels almost like you ran out of space when you were drawing it, and so you kind of shortened everything up. If you're trying to capture this person's look, the balance of her face, and really make it look like her, it's really important that these things be drawn very accurately, that her nose be long enough, that her chin come down farther, that her mouth be shaped a little bit differently. But you have great drawing skills. I would just take a little bit more time to make sure that this sort of thing is very accurate. In this one, the reference photo that you used, the upper section of her face is cast in shadow. So it's going to make it a little bit difficult for you to figure out where your light source needs to be if you don't want the upper section of her face shadowed like this. Looking at her eyes, you've got the highlight on the upper section of her eye, but there's nowhere for that light to escape. You should have a highlight on the underside of the iris there. The upper section of the eye, both the white and the iris, should be shadowed based on where you've got your light source on the rest of the painting. If you look at this sample, you can see where I've got it darker at the top and lighter at the bottom, and that's just going to make it look a little bit more realistic. The other thing is that you've got the white going from corner to corner on the eyes, and on the inside of the eye, a pink rounded bit that will, these are technical terms by the way, but that will give you that much more realistic look and make the eyes look more three-dimensional. When you leave that out, you end up with a more cartoony look in the eye. Still on her eyes, you've kind of dropped out the tear line on the inside there, on the bottom lid. But you left part of it on her left eye. On our right, you can see a highlight here, but it doesn't continue through the rest of that eye. So that's another thing that I would watch for. Make sure you get that tear line in there. And it is hard to see on your reference photo. If you're not really familiar with doing portraits, it might be something that you wouldn't even notice. It just looks like a shadow, no big deal. But that sort of detail will help your work to look even more realistic. Onto her nose, there's a bit of this green light being cast just kind of on the front of her face, but it's not really continuing through elsewhere on the painting, and this is something that I would definitely tone down. It might just be a reflection from how you've taken the photograph. That is actually possible. But if it's not, you want to watch because it's just this center area that feels like it has this green cast to it. So I would tone that down, make it more neutral like the rest of her skin tones. In addition to that, the lines, the shadows, which there are shadows in the photo, but the shadows that you have coming down, lining the edge of her nose, they're a bit too harsh. Really the shadow can be stronger, but it needs to be larger. You want to continue that shadow further down the side of her nose. If you look at your reference photo, look at the shadow there. It's less of a line and more of a big clump of shadow. I am just on fire with all the technical terms today. But by continuing that shadow so that the line isn't so thin, that will keep it from looking like you've just outlined the edges of the nose, which is really important when you are drawing noses, especially on those edges. It's all about the shadows. You really want to avoid anything looking like a line besides the underside of the nose if there's a really strong shadow, or around the nostrils, and even then it would be shadows. They're just harsher shadows. Now for her mouth, again, it's not shaped quite right. But in general, you're going to want the upper lip to be darker than the bottom lip because it's normally going to be cast in shadow and the light's going to hit the bottom lip there. And the way that you've got the rest of this piece lit, that would definitely be the case here. Right now, both the upper and the bottom lip, they're very, very close in value. So that's an easy thing that you can do that will help give your work a little bit more dimension. And I've given you a lot of tips that I know are super hard to do because the size you're working on is very small. You did a really good job here, and I love the design. I love all of these elements that you threw into this piece with those red circles and the paint splatters, and all around I really like this one. Thanks for watching. If you're new to my channel, I have new video critiques every Tuesday where I'm critiquing your original paintings or drawings, my own speed paintings, drawings, and tutorials every Wednesday, social media tips or art Q&A videos every Thursday, and artist vlogs every weekend. So if you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Google+. All of those social media sites are linked below in the video description where you can keep up with news, my newest work, and see real-time clips of whatever it is I'm currently working on. I'll see you guys tomorrow.